We'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. We would also like to pay our respects to elders past and present.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome to the second season of What Do You Think Podcast. My name is Natanya,
And I'm Arwen.
and the title for today's episode is Kabur Aja Dulu. We want to dig into the specifics with our subtitle, Cost of Living and Cost of Leaving. So, here's our guest speaker today, please.
Our guest speaker today is Jessyln, a friend and a PhD student in the Faculty of Arts in University of Melbourne. Her projects show her interest in politics, especially during the presidential elections in Indonesia. She also holds both a bachelor and master's degree in communication, both from Universitas Erlangga, and she also holds a Melbourne Research Scholarship.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I know that Kabur Aja Dulu has been kind of a topic in a couple of months ago, but we still think that's really relevant because again we're still here, and every time there's news coming out of Indonesia, some people might feel like Kabur Aja Dulu might be the only solution. But let's talk about that more. So, we'll talk about the first question.
The first question, is leaving always about seeking something better, or is it sometimes about escaping from frustration?
Yeah. Nah. Can I? We'll just
we'll just
do.
unpack it.
Yeah. Right.
Mhm.
Okay. Mungkin dari aku sendiri ya. I've been here almost 3 years, and it's not my motivation to go to Australia to study is just to study, and perhaps, yeah, of course, there's some financial stuff like motivations behind that, but yeah, I'm still, not well. When I leave Indonesia, the condition was not as this bad. It's not this bad, dan turbulensi politik pada saat itu juga, ya ekonomi mungkin udah ada pergolakan lah ya. Tapi the politics, it's different from when I leave Indonesia di tahun 2023, before the elections. Dan frustration. I can see that. Kalau some people itu keluar karena frustration, because but again it's perhaps financially, karena the job market, the labor market, terus kemudian ya itu tadi kebanyakan undergrads atau I think masters ya, kebanyakan yang masters yang keluar. Tapi pada saat itu posisinya kan mereka, I think they have some kind of jobs in Indonesia atau some kind of education, jadi mereka bisa kabur gitu kan. Tapi again, what's their motivation to kabur? Is it financial? Is it what career wise atau apa gitu? Yeah.
And yeah, if it's, I guess if Kabur Aja Dulu, you said people are leaving because of financial or maybe educational reasons.
Yeah.
What does that say about the, I guess, opportunities that is in Indonesia?
Opportunity ya.
I think there's a lot of opportunity in Indonesia. It's just that it's just not accessible to many people.
Yeah, not as mainstream.
Yeah, not as mainstream.
As a choice.
Yeah,
For people.
because I heard that kita kayak selalu dengar UMKM di Indonesia itu adalah tulang punggung ekonomi kita kan.
Yes.
Karena kita udah menurun nih sektor manufacturing kita kan. Dan berarti kalau UMKM, that means itu informal jobs. Dan informal jobs itu kita need some certain skills yang mungkin ya itu tadi, makanya di universitas, we're going to university, but that knowledge itu nggak translated into the job market.
Because the job market is mainly informal. So
Yeah.
people end up doing things that they didn't study for. If that
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah.
But then again, it lagi-lagi depends on their capital. Kalau they're undergrads, let's say ya, Um, kita bayangin deh, seseorang anak gitu ya, dia mungkin di umur berapa? Mulai S1. Let's say ini seseorang yang afford to bisa masuk S1 gitu ya. Untuk masuk S1 sendiri, itu biayanya berapa di Indonesia? Let's say kalau di aku dulu, itu satu semester sekitar, di jurusan aku tuh sekitar 9 jutaan per semester. Berarti per 6 bulan lu bayar 9 juta. Dan I'm lucky because I got the government scholarship because of my financial situation, gitu kan. Tapi not all of like yang mungkin ya middle class yang they barely survive. Tapi kalau untuk cost untuk education itu nggak bisa apa ya, fully yang the best lah, gitu kan. So they have to choose like, do I want to go to university or not? Dan Dini udah jadi bikin path hidup yang berbeda lagi nih untuk dia di masa depan. Untuk 5 tahun ke depan, oke, dia akan jadi anak SMA dan dia akan kerja apa seterusnya. Itu jadi trajektori hidup yang beda lagi. And let's say dia S1, dia kemudian bekerja. Nah, bekerjanya pun ini juga it takes time dan it takes apa ya, butuh experience juga kan untuk kerja di Indonesia, untuk kayak let's say doing I don't know whatever jobs gitu kan. Karena biasanya entry level di Indonesia itu it's pretty hard dan pretty low wage
and very competitive.
Very competitive as well. And I saw like a video like mungkin beberapa hari lalu, kayaknya yang ngelamar di BUMN gitu ya, dan mereka di kayak based on their heights. Kayak, do you saw that? Do you saw that video?
It's with,
don't think I have, but
I think I saw a video.
Yeah, kayak
like,
based on their heights.
Some people
like,
did say that it was like because of the nature of the job itself, you might need to be a bit taller.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
But I don't know the details of that, so I can't like comment. But I have seen that before, and it is.
Yeah.
Do you want to say something? Yeah.
Sure.
It's okay.
I have an additional question.
Yeah.
So I noticed that kalau di Indo kerja, let's say like blue collar jobs are seen as like, oh, you're low class, you're orang bawahan lah. But what I notice here in Australia is that justru blue collar jobs di sini tuh you're deemed equal and it's still respectable. And gajinya itu bisa lebih besar daripada white collar jobs. What do you think about that? I just want to know.
Oh, yeah.
That's interesting because they are being paid per hour?
Per hour, yeah,
right.
yeah. And that's the other thing, yeah, with blue collar job, and I think they got paid quite similarly. Kayak I think kalau di job market, from what I heard, kayak di Australia sini tuh sekitar, kalau nggak salah 20-an sekian ya per hour untuk ya sekitar segituan untuk satu jamnya gitu. So kalau you're being paid the same way yang white collared being paid, there's no shame in that. I actually like, you know what? I actually menjadi pernah kayak for some months doing Uber Eats delivery.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
with like your bike.
With my bike, electric bike,
okay,
and I applied for that, and then mungkin for some months I can get like 100 something for a week. If I'm like my battery is like not dying out.
I guess this would fall under like the opportunities that not talked about, like the mainstream opportunities, because in Indonesia there's not a lot of choices. Meanwhile here you don't have to go to uni. There's also tradie school, which is also considered respectable and pays well, and you won't have as big as a debt as going into regular uni. Like you won't have the HEC stuff. So I know a lot of people who skip uni entirely and went into tradie and have a lot more money than, for example, if they were to go to uni and they're still like unsure about what they want to do, and then they would be wasting money and they would be in debt.
Nah, that's balik lagi ke tadi ya, yang soal trajectory ya. Let's say tadi S1 and then you itu, if you're not getting any job, you already spend some money. Kalau lu tadi S1-nya nggak beasiswa or punya modal yang cukup,
Yeah.
you're gonna end up again poor
Yeah.
or mendekati poor lah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Untuk
because now you have that.
because you have that now,
Yeah.
you have spent all your money for your education, and then what you're gonna do, and then people getting stressed, like you still have to eat at
Right,
least,
yeah.
ya kan, have to pay
Yeah.
the rent, bayar kos, let's say untuk orang perantau, or whatever, bayar listrik lah jelek-jeleknya
Yeah.
kan, atau bayar kuota,
Yeah, yeah.
ya kan?
Your kota.
and then kalau di sini I think ya memang karena tadi ya bayarnya per jam dan ada tradies, jadi kayak ada some pride in being tradies, gitu kan, kayak well I don't need to be a white collar people, and then aku bisa jadi tradies and then plumbing or whatever. And I think di Indo, balik lagi ke tadi pertanyaannya siapa tadi, sorry, Diana, ya itu di Indo itu orang juga ada kan, kayak jurusan kita tuh SMK gitu,
Yeah.
kejuruan yang mereka diajarinya itu practical skills yang entah itu apa, montir atau things like that, yang practical as in nature gitu, mereka bisa langsung kerja. Dan tapi apa ya, still in the job market itu belum dilihat sebagai something yang you can be proud of. Kalau lu jadi tukang listrik gitu, let's say, atau tukang pipa gitu di Indo, I don't think itu ada pride di situ. Sama kayak kalau lu anak petani atau lu anak buruh atau apa, the vision di Indonesia itu ya lu sekolah, lu boleh lahir jadi anak petani, tapi lu nggak boleh misalnya let's say mati jadi anak petani. There's some notions around cita-cita kerja gitu ya di Indo. Jangan mati jadi anak petani lagi, lu harus be better than your parents gitu kan.
I've experienced something similar, like for example, like if your parents graduate only high school, your kids should graduate
Higher than you.
like bachelor's. And
Yeah,
then, like
yeah.
if you graduate from bachelor's, your kids should aim
Have
for a master's, for
masters.
example.
Yeah.
Like one, I guess in a way, one level higher.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there's no nothing wrong about
Yeah,
that.
there's nothing wrong about
Like
that.
kita pasti kan mau maju gitu, mau moving forward, we want to live a better life. Tapi itu tadi kalau harus ada some connections between the education system and the labor system.
Right.
Yeah, the job market should like have some lapangan kerjanya itu loh untuk nampung orang-orang ini, karena every month, perhaps every week ada I don't know how many orang yang wisuda gitu. And then ini orang-orang akan kemana? Gitu
Yes.
kan? Akan mau
I think-
diserap ke lapangan kerja Indonesia,
Yeah.
or ya nggak ada.
Where did they go?
Yeah, where do they go?
Because I think I did see a stat on this. Editing will check on this later, but that like there's a very little number of Indonesians altogether who have graduated
Oh yeah,
their bachelors.
yeah, the
period.
number is very low.
Very, very low.
The average itu kayaknya junior high graduate.
Yes, I think it's
Junior high.
only like a couple. Like I think it's less than 100,000 people probably.
Yeah.
Like who have like successfully graduated their bachelors. And I guess that connects with our Kaburaja dulu, because like people who do want to go abroad are people who already have this cultural and educational capital.
Yeah.
So
You cannot just go.
can
And,
just go.
yeah, and then itu tadi yang sesuai dengan tema kita ini, the cost of living tadi ya. Of living, you cannot just go, like pack your bags and go. You cannot. You have to like prepare for your IELTS. You have to prepare for your visa, health exam, and perhaps another, like in some countries they do like GMAT, GRE, whatever, right? Or like in Japan or whatever, they have like another test for people to take before they apply for university. And so perhaps because the Kaburaja dulu hashtag and the Indonesia Gelap was like sort of like together
It was
in a sense.
Yeah,
Pretty
together.
tight. Like I think Kaburaja dulu itu kayaknya kayak from like several months before Indonesia gelap
Yes.
itu udah ada gitu kan, udah ada gitu, dan itu di drive karena diaspora Indonesia yang kerja atau tinggal di luar negeri itu kan
They share their
they
experience.
share their experience,
Yeah,
ya kan?
Yeah, yeah.
Kayak oh this is the bright side of like my
a day
life
in my
now.
life.
Yeah.
A day in my life as
Yeah.
I don't know, a waiter in XYZ country.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
like 1 hour like doing grocery store, like
Oh yeah,
visiting
going
the
to,
doing
cooking
grocery.
Indonesian food
Yeah,
for my
yeah,
friends.
yeah,
I've seen that.
Yeah, and that's like there's always not just two sides, but like multitude, sides
Yeah.
of like being abroad. It's not as simple as just okay, now I live in Indonesia, transported to
Yeah.
a different
So
country
you
and like
teleported.
yeah, it's not like that. And the cost of living, like for me gitu ya, karena again I'm lucky because I got this scholarship and it's like fully funded.
Yes.
And but again I have to prepare some money first to apply for all the stuff, for all the requirements, karena
Yes.
this money will not, I will get this money later. Kayak sistemnya kayak not reimbursement, but they get I get a lump sum
Yeah.
later, not upfront. Jadi I have to prepare, and then I take this like IELTS course gitu.
Oh yeah, kursus IELTS.
Kursus
Yes,
IELTS,
yes. Yeah, that takes a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I took this course like for a month, and then ada kayak sesi kayak
Mock
dialog,
test?
like
Oh,
mockup
yeah.
test, and then kayak saling sharing gitu lah dengan teman-teman yang juga ngambil IELTS.
Right.
And then they said, oh ini misalnya aku harus ada biaya, di kotaku itu gak ada misalnya kayak apa tuh IDP or something yang bisa take test in person. So I have to book a ticket, flight, I don't know for how much, to another city that has this
that has a testing center.
Yes. And then you have to, and then
pay for accommodation.
Pay for accommodation as well. So it's not as simple, I think.
Yes.
The cost of living and cost of living in Indonesia is pretty much.
I guess with kabur aja dulu, do you think this trend would I guess still exist if there were more visible success stories of when people are staying and making change? I made my own answer to this, and
I want to hear yours.
Okay, I'm reading off my journal. I don't necessarily think so, because I don't think it's necessarily related whether like kabar dulu with if people are successful in Indonesia, whether they want to stay, because I think there's already so much successful people in Indonesia. Like we don't have a shortage of it. Let's be honest. But I think there's a thin line between like a success story versus romanticizing struggle. And like you should be able to admit that your situation isn't ideal, and the statements like I'm grateful for what I have and I wish there was more opportunities isn't mutually exclusive. Yeah. Continuing from what I said earlier, from
The romanticization.
romanticizing struggle, I guess. I understand if that's like the coping mechanism, obviously, again, because not everyone can kabur aja dulu. What do you think about that? I think it also ties in the UMKM kind of like, I don't know, not encouragement, but like just the informal economy. Yeah, like I see one too many stories of kids like stopping school so they can help out with their household, and I'm like, that shouldn't be a choice, right?
That's like your last resort. Should be, because then again again, if you're poor, and then that's your last resort, right? But again, last resort means you don't have any other choices. That's the most feasible options for you to like let's say SMA atau S1, and then you take whatever jobs that available for you at a time, gitu kan. But again, this is like part of our system di Indo yang once you're bankrupt, you're bankrupt. It's very hard for you to
Get out of that
get out of bankruptcy. It's very hard. There's no like, let's say kalau lu need money, where'd you go? As a family, let's say you have parents, both parents, and then you have yourself, and then your brother or sister, whatever, younger brother.
Younger sibling.
Yeah, and then parents, let's say they're sick or something.
Oh.
Let's say, yeah.
Let's say
And then
one of them is sick and they can't work.
one of them is sick, and then one of them have to work, and then only one income, kan? Terus, and that doesn't like always pay the bills. Like let's say berapa sih UMR di Indo? Yang paling tinggi kan baru Jakarta, and that's like around five
That's around
five
on average, maybe
million.
it's under 3 or 2.5.
Yeah, and then let's say
And
modern.
That's for one person.
One person.
Women is actually for one person. It's not meant to
Yeah.
live with a family.
Yeah, and then
You know, people make it work.
yeah, and then you don't, let's say, poor family, $5 million, 5 million rupiahs a month, and then you don't have your health care, BPJS, 5 million, kurangi, let's say, I don't know, for groceries, and then you have to pay again for your health, and then
Transportation, maybe.
and then your kids' education, and then bills, electricity and water and whatever. And then how much you gonna save from that 5 million?
Yeah, it's
And
very
that-
expensive.
Yeah,
I
very
mean,
expensive.
realistically.
Even though it's like very like itu udah gaji 5 juta tuh di Indo itu udah cukup oke lah ya.
Yeah.
Maksudnya udah itu yang best out of like this situation. Tapi itu again sistem untuk kayak edukasi orang tuh dibebankan dengan banyak hal ini. Orang harus bayar untuk edukasi, kita harus bayar untuk kesehatan, kita harus bayar untuk let's say asuransi lain, atau kita harus bayar untuk whatever the stuff. Dan kita nggak, kalau di sini kan let's say with I think 30,000 you can like have a
Like here.
here
I think
like
30,000 is like minimum.
living
You're
like
living.
you can live with that.
You can live.
But in Indo, well, 5 million, like kita kalau punya udah family gitu, ya gak bisa hidup, man.
Yeah.
It's very tipis banget untuk how much you can save, gitu, and how much you can like spend. Let's say again, there's an accident, what gonna happen? You don't have any savings, you don't have nothing. Have you watched this movie? Indo movie. I saw it when I got back.
Like, satu kakak tujuh keponakan.
No.
What
What was it?
Is it about the house one?
Yeah.
I don't remember the
wait.
name.
Oh,
They
the
even
house
have
one.
like this like
The one with
money
the-
tracking sheets or something.
Is it the one where like they got kicked out of their house? Or like
Oh my god,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay,
but
let's have-
basically
yeah, we
that
can have a
there's a
look.
movie
Yeah, okay, there's a
about
movie.
that, yeah. And then yeah, I watched it with my friends and we cried because it really shows how, you know, once your money is everything. Yeah, we cannot deny that, yeah. But again, we need support from the systems, from the government to like,
Yeah.
let's say if we're broke, what's our like saving net? I think that's the term.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
what's yeah, saving net to
Safety net.
yeah, safety net. Yeah, to ensure that if we get broke, we're not really, you know, broke and we cannot get up
You can't
anymore.
get up again.
Yeah, and so again with kabur aja dulu. Let's say you're saving, and you've been saving. Let's say you're now a worker in Indo with 5 million rupiah a month, and you were working 9 to 5, and then you have this aspiration to kabur aja dulu, and then because you're motivated by all those good sides of living abroad. You're motivated by that. Oh yeah, I can do that too, and then you saving to take IELTS, your visa, your whatever. And then for how many long months you're gonna save, right? Let's say you can only save, like, I think in Indo with 5 million rupiah, this is very moderate, I think only like 1 million if you're living in Jakarta. Yeah, if you're living in Jakarta, kos berapa? Kos-kosan kan let's say 1,5. And you're gonna have to do groceries, you whatever, transportation. So kabur aja dulu itu very costly. It's not something that everyone can do, unfortunately, because that's not a feasible option for everyone. And then maybe I should come back to that kabur aja dulu and Indonesia gelap. The situation with Indonesia gelap, I think, really sort of like becoming a justification for those people really, struggling financially, middle class, financially struggling. They have some sort of resources, whether educations or language or whatever, and then they're saying, "Oh, Indonesia is broken. Indonesia is dark. This is the right time. I should kabur aja dulu." And that's very like middle class sort of like ladies.
Yeah. I mentioned that as well as like as part of like some of the criticism. Like what I see online is that like, oh, people who are like encouraging kabur aja dulu or like thinking about it, like seriously thinking about it, are very very privileged. And like I don't think that's like, yeah, they're pretty much right. That criticism really hits it true, because like I mean we're all here to some extent, right? So we go to the next section, which is actually we're gonna like not twist this, but like take another view of maybe the psychology of it, kind of like.
Yes. Oh, the psychology of believing. Is escape or empowerment. Is this trend a sign of emotional burnout from political participation that has failed to produce meaningful change in Indonesia?
Yeah. I think that's part of it.
Yeah,
Not necessarily the main factor, I think.
because
I think
like
political participation is a long-term thing, right?
Yeah, long-term thing. Yeah.
Because it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah. And with, I don't know, with Indo, I think there's a huge gap within our society in thinking about politics. Some of us really invested in politics, like in big cities, like let's say Jakarta. Very invested in politics, very aware of what is going on in the politics. Tapi like some people in the suburbs, like in the like small cities, and they're not as educated, with like low income. I think they wouldn't care, or they wouldn't like have the time. I think they wouldn't have the time to think about politics, because they spend all their time in a day to like thinking on how am I gonna survive today.
and yeah, kind of like a blanket statement of they won't help me, so like I'll have to make do with myself.
Yeah. The only person that can save me is me. And so, well, I don't. And ada kan kayak di Indo juga kayak mau presidennya siapapun,
Cari makan sendiri.
mencari makan sendiri.
Mencari untuk bikin duit sendiri.
Itu. Jadi, dan this is also kalau kita ngomong historically, this is part of like how the Orde Baru itu creating our society. Because di zaman Orde Baru itu tuh there's a concept of floating mass, basically saying that so gini. Jadi di Orde Lama Soekarno 45 sampai 66 itu basically kita pernah eksperimen gitu ya. Vibes-nya or like the narrations, like the narrative around our society was like, oh, we're being, colonized We have
Yeah,
to
we have
move
to,
and then
we have to be
fight them.
independent. We
Yeah, we have to be
make
independent.
everything
Yeah, we
ourselves.
have to be united. And that's part of like, there's this term called print capitalism. And then basically, karena at the time media kita adalah media cetak,
Yeah.
gitu. So it's easier for people to have a same imagination around what is going on in their society, karena the information they get is same everywhere. Similarly, let's say that's the idea.
Yeah, it's static.
Yeah, and then during Orde Lama, we have some kinds of experiment with our political system. Kalau mungkin pernah masih ingat di pelajaran sejarah ada kabinet-kabinet tuh, kabinet Wilopo, Burhanuddin Harahap, dan all that. It's our experiment with liberal democracy, and then, and our society was very politicized. Everyone everywhere.
Everyone had a group that they're
They're very into like party politics.
Yeah.
And like Mas Yumi, or are you PKI, or are you PNI, or are you
Are you
what
this-
party are you from?
Well, yeah, what are you?
Yeah, like what are you? Like I heard like lecture from Max Lane, like back in the days.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
like
I
back-
did go to one of his seminars as well.
You went there as well. Okay,
Yeah.
so basically back in the days, like people are asking, like if someone asking like where are you from?
Yes,
Yeah,
I remember
like
this. I remember
they're
this
gonna
lecture. I
say
remember
they're
this.
gonna say like oh, I'm from this party, like let's say Mas Yumi or PKI or PNI,
Yeah.
and comparing to nowadays, like if there's someone asking like where are you from, like I'm gonna say I'm from Surabaya.
I'm gonna say I'm from. I'm gonna say I'm from.
Yeah, right?
Jatim, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we're entering basically in 59 karena ada dekret presiden, because at the time basically the military itu udah, karena di tahun 57, so the decree itu di tahun 59, dan 57 itu kita ada darurat militer. So basically we're entering like the Definisi ABRI and all that stuff happening during this year, and then we're entering this guided democracy.
Yes.
And then by the end of this, we're entering the new order, Suharto, where the military is already there in the government, and they have their share of power. And then basically they introduced this term called floating mass. Basically, okay, you know what? Revolution is over. We don't have any enemies to fight because the Dutch is gone. And then and then
the old order is also gone.
yeah, the old order is already gone, and then our focus now should be about developing economic development. Yeah. And then the government introduced this concept called floating mass, basically saying that you in the like rural areas, don't dive yourself into politics anymore, because you know what, that's not going to take you anywhere.
It's gonna waste your time.
It's gonna waste your time. To just focus on like developing your areas economically.
Yeah.
And then there's another policy called NKKBKK. NKKBKK itu normalisasi kehidupan kampus di tahun I think 78, and it ended around the 90s. And basically that policy is creating a depoliticization.
Yeah, depoliticization.
Yeah, in our society and especially in our education. So that's why universities in Indonesia don't talk about politics anymore. Because we're being, kampus itu tempat pendidikan.
Yeah.
Lu di sini tuh belajar. You're not supposed to do politics here. You're supposed to learn.
You're
Just
supposed
study.
you're supposed to study.
Yeah.
It's depoliticization knowledge.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah. And so with that, with no one's linked to politics or like having like any care about politics.
Yeah,
And
or
so
they were actively being prevented
Yeah.
from organizing.
Yeah, organizing. And then because we have since Orde Baru Demokrasi Pancasila, which is basically saying that if you're like discussing any other
Ideology
ideology or
you're
whatever,
like betraying.
oh, you're
You're anti-Indonesia.
Yeah, you're anti-Indonesia. NKRI harga mati, bro.
Oh,
Ya nggak sih?
No,
So
yeah.
we don't have like any discussion about any other alternative about our situation.
Like, I understand like why, because like 1965 was like really scary. Like,
Yeah.
like a lot of bad things happened, and that's why like Pancasila became like the sole
Yeah.
principle.
Yeah.
But like of course like overly committing onto that means that we can't openly discuss, or at least feel comfortable in discussing
Yeah.
alternatives.
Yeah. That's what happened. Yeah.
Wow.
But again, I think it's about time for university in Indonesia starting to talks about politics. I think this is like mulai dari 2023 ya. I think that's the momentum for university to start talking about politics again. Don't like distance yourself from politics, because either way it's gonna
Your
affect.
knowledge is going to be used in the public anyway.
Yeah.
And that in itself is
Yeah.
Knowledge in itself is inherently political.
Yeah. That's right. And you're gonna like youths always said, either they really believe it or not, but they always said that, oh, generasi muda itu adalah yang nanti akan menentukan arah masa depan.
Yeah.
But how you gonna like realistically
like,
speaking, how you gonna like set the course of this nation if you're not like
really?
Yeah.
You're not making it used to young like kids like young Indonesians to discuss about these things. Like going through their own trial and error.
Yeah. Dan even though kayak ini lagi-lagi juga ya, karena that's whole depolitisasi yang ada, a lot of people atau di let's say youth perhaps, ya nggak di youth juga sih, tapi I think banyak generasi atau orang-orang yang mau punya kesadaran itu untuk ngubah Indonesia itu kadang ada pikiran, gue ngubah dari luar aja. I'm not going to enter the system because I'm going to be polluted by all pollutions happening inside. Because and then I have to like take a distance and then ngelawan dari luar gitu.
Yeah, so they leave and they fight from outside.
Yeah. That's not wrong, but again, if you want to create like a really lasting impacts, though, you really have to create policy. And where are you gonna create policy? You have to be
inside, or at least
the legislations or whatever.
Like I guess policy briefs, or at least work with government on something.
Yeah.
You cannot just be on the outside.
Yeah, but then again, you have to stick with your principle.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Yeah, that's the
hard part. There's many temptations.
Yeah, karena there's like NGO or whatever. I'm not attacking or like disagreeing with NGO, because I think that's the only platforms right now, the only feasible options that we have to create some sort of like discussions di society. Karena well again ada kayak civil society powers and then against the government and things like that. Tapi again really sticking to your principle as an individual, as a citizen, and as a part of like NGO itu, you really have to really do that. Karena again, kalau lu memang mau ngelawan dari dalam atau luar or whatever, what's your vision? You have to be very clear about what your vision is.
I guess for our listeners, if you're interested in that kind of like repoliticizing or like kind of like rediscussing politics again, education, I highly recommend checking out the principles of academic freedom. In Monash, I think last year I did a unit on it, and it was very, very useful in understanding like, what are our responsibilities as academics in politics.
And that's really important, like to rediscovering politics, I think, in our youth. Karena sejarah kita itu kan very orba ya.
Yeah.
Kayak kita itu gedenya itu
a lot of us are getting it after.
After, right? I was born in 98. So my education itu adalah remnants dari whatever the Orba was like
Yes.
saying, like, okay, you can tell them
You
the
can say
kids about this, not
The
that again.
curriculum's like this.
Yeah, and then we have a very surface level of knowledge about our history. And I was only discovering, and that's why I'm still like learning. Like there's a lot of thing about Indonesia that I'm still not
Me too.
not aware of, you know? Like with our history, like with that like 57 ada darurat militer. No one's telling me about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like, oh, why there's this dui fungsi abri or whatever. Why we need to resist the UU TNI, for example.
Like why we shouldn't have, let's say, the military and college campuses.
Yeah, like why? Like most of us, like if we don't have knowledge of history, we wouldn't like. We're only going to take whatever like happening right now.
Yeah.
Granted, you know, like, oh yeah, this is just how government works.
Yeah, we'll just take it at face value.
Yeah,
Basically.
yeah, and then ada kayak ya golongan, let's say civil society or whatever people yang demo or protes and whatever. And kita kalau yang gak punya pengetahuan tentang itu, we're gonna look at them like, why are you being so loud?
Yeah.
Right?
Like,
Why
what's
you-
all this for?
What's all this for? Like you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
Like why you're like lu bikin macet or whatever kayak gitu kan.
Yeah.
Tapi kayak if we really understand the context of why all these people are doing whatever they're doing, we're gonna have more apa ya, solidarity with the movement yang lagi mulai tumbuh ini. Gitu loh. Karena we're not just being loud, we're being loud to, you know, sort of like also protecting you guys. Because whatever happens to us also happens to like our
Everyone
society.
else.
Yeah. Like with UU TNI, like, and all the kebijakan-kebijakan yang
all the-
belakangan ini ya, itu kan itu nggak, misalnya let's say kayak MBG juga, itu kan nggak cuman kayak ngomongin tentang oh anak-anak sekolah dikasih makan, tapi kan ini ngomongin tentang anggaran negara gitu. Anggaran negara yang kita, I think we have better priority. Sorry, I'm not like I'm fully supporting like our education, tapi I don't think this is the right way
Yeah.
untuk supporting our education.
Or the right move right now.
Or the right, yeah, right now. Karena there are more important things to do
More
other
pressing
than
issues.
like providing free meal, free lunch. Yeah.
How do
Yeah.
you suddenly talk about? No, but yeah,
Yeah.
this is what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we continue to the
Yes.
next question? Because you mentioned about people leaving because they believe that they could make a change from the outside, not from the inside.
Yeah.
Does knowing that others have left make staying feel like a failure? Because I can't change from the inside, and I'm staying here inside Indonesia, and I can't do anything, and you just feel like this sense of doom and failure.
Oh, no, I thought whether you're in or out, I think if you're like really karena tadi ya kita udah ngomong kayak di awal kondisi kehidupan di Indo itu seperti apa sih? Ya kan we're already have a grasp lah tentang gimana sih kondisi di Indo. And if you're like really apa ya? You don't have the time, let's say, because you're working, or you don't have the let's say knowledge tadi ya untuk historical knowledge or whatever. I think if you're like being limited by all of that, I think with this kind of stuff, like with politics, I think that's we're not going to agonizing you. We're not going to like, oh you're not like contributing enough to our Indonesia. Because I think, let's say lu mau ikut demo atau lu mau ikut itu tuh butuh uang, butuh waktu juga untuk lu datang ke tempat, gitu kan. Dan butuh yang lebih penting tuh butuh bener-bener apa ya, bravery ya to come. Karena
Bravery,
it-
especially bravery.
yeah, like
Yeah.
if you going to like let's say pergi ke demo DPR gitu, and you're not going to know what gonna happen there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know.
If you don't know,
You're risking your safety.
you're risking your safety. Karena ya
And
itu
your families, possibly.
ya, karena kita nggak apa ya, ya karena itu ya ada sense of uncertainty kalau kita ke sana itu let's say there's a riot broke or whatever. What we're gonna to do? Like aku pergi ke demo DPR di Agustus itu, and I was like going there, like I was like preparing for a war. You know, in my head, I was like preparing for the worst. I get my mask, I get my jacket, all my gear in case something happen.
Yeah.
And if in Indo, if like all I can say to people yang mungkin belum let's say belum pernah ikut demo atau mungkin belum banyak tahu sehingga ya itu tadi karena belum banyak tahu, belum banyak dengar or whatever, akhirnya nggak banyak ikut apa ya, at least ngediskusiin ini atau semacamnya. I think yeah for the moment it's okay, but you know what? At the end of the day, all these things going to impact you in one way or another. So I think some people or by I don't know how, but they should be reach out. And then again, that's why like there's this movement everywhere, right? Like to reach out to as many Indonesian, merangkul as many people. So ya udah kalau lu memang bisanya begitu, okay that's fine. But you know what? Let's not stop and let's not be discouraged or apathetic about the politics. Basically that lah. And that's why like in Indo, like in Australia, like in Melbourne, that's why like there's this movement and I was part of it. It's called Melbourne Bergerak. Basically this movement itu responding to what happened what happened in August 2023 demo DPR ketika yang Kaisang pilkada and all that stuff. Basically because oh my god, that's like a very audacious move like from the government ya untuk like in 1 year like
within a year
majuin Gibran and you're like being elected. All right, okay, we can do much about that again. And then this UU you want to pass on, chill man.
a little bit much.
One at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. And then this movement was created in response to that. And then basically we want to sort of bikin apa ya, forum wadah kayak kelompok belajar juga gitu untuk come on, ini I think this is the time we think this is the time to start getting into politics again. You know, like learning about Indonesian politics, at least being aware of what is happening di politik kita gitu untuk and then you can decide like whatever you want to do, but at least you're not being
at least you're on the same page and
Yeah.
learn the basics first.
Yeah.
Because like again, like not everyone's schools were probably
Yeah.
discussing about this. Like
yeah.
I think with even the different curriculum changes
Oh,
happening
yeah.
recently.
All the time.
Oh, the curriculum change again?
Yeah.
Yep,
Oh.
it went back to digress, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, my point is like, I guess even education itself is kind of uncertain, right?
Yeah.
Sorry for all my adik kelas going through this.
Yeah.
Sangat,
Oh, we've been through that.
Oh, yeah, we've been
I
through
kayak
that as well.
aku juga kayak SD tuh kayak KTSP 2006 and then like all suddenly 2013
Oh,
curriculum 2013. Yeah.
2013.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Melbourne Bergerak. It was actually my first time joining a protest in Melbourne Bergerak, and it was such a lovely experience. If you're new to like politics and you want to learn more, but like safely, I'd say try Melbourne Bergerak.
Yeah.
And they also hold the education classes, class politic. I haven't had the chance to experience it yet, but I've heard from a lot of people that it's really good. They cover all the basics, and it's good if you're like a complete newbie or just someone who wants to know a bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll like link it.
Wow, right, thank
Link
you.
it down in the description, guys. Yeah. Okay.
Wow, right.
Yeah.
Ooh. But yeah, of a little bit of about Melbourne Bergerac. Actually, we're like creating this international solidarity with other Indonesian diaspora.
I saw this. Yes, with your collabed posts.
Yeah.
Like with other bergerak.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we're sort of like because in other countries, like Melbourne is quite, you know, politically aware.
Oh,
The
we're very politically
yeah,
aware.
like
Yeah.
diaspora
Very
here is like very politically aware, and in other countries they're not as aware. And so I think we have London Bergerak.
Yeah.
That's also like inspired by what we done here in Melbourne, and then I think we have yeah other countries, other cities in the world that is starting to bergerak, you know, starting to move again to politics, and I like we really vision that whole Indonesia, whole our diaspora everywhere will at the end bergerak and then do something about Indonesia. Yeah.
What a nice one. Sure. Okay. So you maybe want to get to the next part.
Right. So the next part is because we were talking about leaving and having an impact on the fact that you leave Indonesia. How does leaving impact the way people see themselves? Does it create a sense of freedom, loss, or something in between?
Wow. Yeah, this is interesting. Yeah, this question I think give myself an opportunity to reflect. Yeah, in my position as Indo diaspora living here in Melbourne, I feel like being here give me. I still might. Well, because I only live here like for almost 3 years, so my attachment with whatever happens in Indo is still as strong, I think, for me, because I still follow the news, and but perhaps that feelings of like, you know, experiencing there firsthand, and then only like hearing, hearing the news, seeing the news, it's different.
It's very different.
Yeah, and I remember when because I well in 2023 still here, and like with all that. No, wait a minute. No, oh wait, wait. So demo DPR was in August 2024, was it, or 2023?
About what issue?
Yang Pilkada Kaisang? 2024, yeah. Okay. So I voted here, di Melbourne.
Yeah, I voted here.
Yeah, I voted here, and that's a different vibe. Yeah. Okay.
Very
Definitely.
much. Yes, we discussed this in a previous episode as well.
Yeah.
Like the difference of voting here and voting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then even though like I follow the news, like because my research is about the 2024 election, so I follow the news, and then going back in August 2024, and well, it turns out ada demo di DPR, and then the feeling was very different. The feeling, and then I stayed in Indo for my fieldwork for around like 4 months, and then in Jakarta mostly, and it's very different. Like being here, you're sort of like you have a shield around you because of the distance and the media basically, and in Indo you're like facing that in its entirety, you know. You can see these people perhaps in real life.
Maybe like when you pass them by.
Yeah, and then like
Your family's probably talking about it.
yeah, and then you can if you like live in Jakarta, you can see all that ministerial building, and and you can like only imagine like, oh, that guy live was
That
there.
guy works there.
There
Yeah.
that works there, and then oh,
worked
perhaps they done whatever like under the door, behind the door deals
Yeah.
or whatever, and then it's different. And I'm not saying, yeah, I think distance makes the difference. Yeah.
Distance
Doesn't make
makes
a
a huge
difference.
difference.
Me too.
Yeah.
I do feel much more freedom here. Like I'm not gonna hide that. Like I'm
Yeah.
not gonna be like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna be like super sad about being like a victim of kabut. Like I'm not.
Yeah.
So, um,
But on the flip side, I guess it also gives you that safety to express yourself. Like in Melbourne
yes.
Bergerac, because when I was home, I had no freedom to do anything. My parents are very protective of me.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
I think Abigail Muria, she hosted like this Bijak Memilih 101 event, like IRL. It was actually really close to my house, but I couldn't leave because I had a curfew at 7, and
Oh my
I had to ask
gosh.
permission to drive, even though I was like technically 20. Like I could go by myself, but it's still like I had no freedom to do so. Meanwhile, here, I saw that Melbourne Bergerac was just having a protest, and it was like near my house. So I just popped by before work, and I'll just go home. And having that freedom makes my heart feel so light. Like,
That's good
Yeah.
to hear.
And that's one of like the things like we in Melbourne Bergerak, we also discuss this, or like sort of like, if we're like doing all these protests, we're not going to be like, we're not be able to do it as freely here,
yeah,
because here you can like just, tell the police you're going to have a protest or whatever, and then that's it. They're not going to like
ask for money.
ask for whatever it is, like
Yeah,
your
I'm gonna ask for extra stuff.
yeah, like we're not afraid of like voicing out here.
Yeah.
And that's an advantage, as you said, the flip side,
Yeah.
because again we have this, again, privilege, the distance of like being distance from Indonesia, and we have the freedom to protest, to say, to speak freely, and then we also like have the power to publicize what we're doing. And so on the flip side, again, that created like a chain of solidarity across our, you know either Melbourne Bergerak or other Bergerak or solidarity groups outside of Indonesia, to sort of like, you know what, you're not alone in Indo,
Yeah.
because we're still like, we didn't forget about you, even though we're like living here. We care about you, and we still, like masih memperjuangkan lu ini semua juga, because we're one in this, jadi
I have a part that I mentioned in my. Okay, thank you. I have another part that from my journal that I have here. With like the criticism that by protesting we don't like Indonesia, but it's the complete opposite. I think the fact that many of us feel upset tells us that the Indonesian imagination is still alive and well, and that's why we're doing this. That's why we have this podcast as well.
Yeah.
like we really care. I personally, I think, yeah, Indonesian itu by, I don't know, by nature or by whatever, at least for me lah, ya, or from people I know, we really have a very sort of like strong attachment with our country, I think, as an Indonesian, because I heard, like, because I follow this YouTuber, I don't know if you know her, Sasha Stevenson. She's living in Canada, and she said that her husband is Indo, from Bandung, Angga, and then basically, like, in before Trump, the tariff, Canadian are like not as nationalist to their identity as being a Canadian.
They're produced.
Yeah.
The things that they produce lah.
Yeah. And then even though like they live in Canada, like But after Trump, they have like this sense of nationalism.
Like we have to buy Canadian
Yeah.
goods.
Yeah.
Boycott American
Yeah, boycott
products.
America is
Yeah.
like America being unreasonable, and then oh my God, we're Canadian, we're not like that.
Yeah.
You know, this sense of us and them
Mhm.
is growing in Canada, and then from her experience, from what I know, and so in Indo, I don't think that's the case with us. Even though we're in Indo, in our country, like we have this sense of nationalism, like let's say with in sepak bola,
Oh yeah.
in
Definitely.
in whatever badminton, or like in sports, or in other walk of life, like kita itu bangga gitu loh.
Very proud. It's very
Yeah.
Proud of being
It's like the ones where you see like on random YouTube videos when they mention Indonesia and the
They go
comments.
like,
is
"Oh,
always like,
Indonesia,
"Oh,
Indonesia,
Indonesia
Indonesia."
mentioned."
Represent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think itu modal sebenarnya buat kita itu untuk kayak diaspora everywhere or Indonesians di Indo itu sebenarnya tuh punya perasaan apa ya, we're in this together itu ada gitu. And cuman perlu di apa ya, di benar-benar ditumbuhin dan dikembangin lagi supaya ini tuh nggak cuman sebuah feeling yang dirasain individu-individu yang tersebar ini, tapi we have to be organized in our approach kalau kita mau create a change or something, because itu tadi kalau you're being disorganized, you're mudah di apa sih, kayak bersatu kita padu, bercerai kita runtuh. That's really
Yes. It's like divided we fall, united something.
United we stand.
yeah, united we stand.
Divided
Yeah,
we
yeah,
fall, yes.
yeah. Because that really is that's really important.
Next question.
Okay, so the next one is consequences beyond the individual. If those who leave thrive elsewhere, does it serve as a proof of a failing system or proof of personal resilience?
A proof of what?
A proof of a failing
failing
system
system.
or a proof of personal resilience?
That one's really interesting because I think it depends on the.
Yeah, it depends. It
Industry
depends.
as well.
It depends on like where you're like going, like
Yeah, it
where
depends
you
on where you're going.
yeah, and then how's the opportunity there, and then like I heard that in America right now, like I think there's a Indonesian students or whatever, like
There's many. I think like 20 or something. 20s.
yeah, like it's
Oh.
their visa
Yeah.
is like being
Revoked.
revoked.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then if let's say you're like thriving or whatever, and then all of a sudden a political
Situation.
blah, and then
it turns upside down.
yeah, and then what you gonna say? It's not about your personal resilience or whatever, right? It's also about the country that you're living in, like being also
Supporting you.
yeah, and also perhaps failing you in a sense, like because I heard that in Australia, like at least what I heard from other PhD students, that like near their graduations, and then they're starting to like trying to look for a job. It's not easy. It's not easy. Not easy at all. But like let's say you're like you're graduated here, you have a international ijazah, yeah, and then you have the experience or you have the connections or whatever, and then you go back to Indo, you can really do much with your achievement, like studying here, and I think you can easily apply for a job in a company, or like in, let's say you want to like be a lecturer in a university or something, or you want to create like I don't know, platforms or whatever to like doing whatever cause that you see better suited you. There's a lot of opportunity if you're going back to Indo, I think. Right now, right now.
Yeah, with I guess like with more digital.
Yeah,
Growing
digital.
digital literacy as well.
Yeah. And not just
And-
digital literacy, political literacy as well.
Literacy as well.
Yeah.
Addressing the gaps
Yeah.
that you see from being outside
Yeah.
and kind of
Yeah. And like think critically about what happened in Indo, because most of the time the knowledge you're studying here, perhaps some of them, yeah, you can apply
sometimes
that.
you can apply it, sometimes
You
you
can't.
can't.
Because
And you have to really make sure,
yeah,
or else you're recreating
another problem.
Another problem.
Yeah. Cuz
You're-
like cuz I heard like in like we just like not we, because I don't celebrate it, but Australian just celebrated Anzac
Yeah,
Day
Anzac Day.
yesterday.
Yes,
Yeah.
yesterday, as we're filming this.
Yeah. And then they like celebrating their veterans, basically, like who fought the
World War One.
World War One and things like that. And I think I saw video of like indigenous people welcoming, I don't know, in a forum or something, and he welcomed the people like, welcome to my ancestors' land, and saying, oh, the
Welcome
name,
to country.
yeah, welcome to country, the acknowledgement of country and whatever. And then the audiences there booing
Oh, yeah,
him.
they booed. Yes.
Yeah, right? Yeah. And then we're learning, like, everywhere here in Australia, even though we're not indigenous, but we pay respects, right?
Yeah.
And then all the like the politicians or whatever, like they're also doing that acknowledgement of country. But this shows that even though like they're teaching, like not teaching us, but like they're saying that we should do this, acknowledge the country, but they're not really doing it either. So again, if even though you're studying abroad, doesn't mean that whatever knowledge that you gain here is better from Indo.
Yeah.
Because it's not, you cannot apply whatever from the outside, like just as is to Indo. Yeah.
And yeah, even with stuff like when people talk about how Australia, let's say Melbourne, has really good public transportation compared to other cities in Indonesia. We also like there's like that's the very surface level of things.
Yeah.
There's like the levels underneath that is like, are the streets can you even retrofit Indonesian streets to accommodate public transport? Because at least like where I'm from like daerah, right? All of our roads are like one ways, and they're usually like single lanes. So like if we wanted to have, let's say, like an angkot system or like a bus system, you can't. You have to like build a whole different one, and that comes with a whole different set of problems. Like whose house or whose neighborhood are you gonna?
And then like if we're like talking about, I mean, in this case Australia, right? Kita harus ingat juga, where did they get all the resources, the capital, to build all this, right?
They definitely probably did not ask permission.
Yeah. And where did they get the money from, like to build all this?
And I guess like in a sense, people always think the grass is greener on the other side. Yeah, that's like the biggest thing, because like you said about appreciation in Indonesia, I feel like there is less appreciation of labor. Yeah, which is why the pay is not a reflection of how much work they do. Hence why blue collar work, like you mentioned in the first part of the podcast, isn't much. And why, for example, my cousin who is working in IT is making like 6 juta, and I work casual here and I only work like twice a week and I make like 10 juta. Yeah. So such a huge difference, and that's like a big reason why people leave, because they see the money, like, oh my god, like the grass is greener on the other side, and I'm gonna earn more if I go to this country. But then they don't see like, oh, the cost of living is also higher, and living in another country isn't necessarily the best.
This
or
might
the
be like
easiest.
another like point of discussion as well, especially with more Indonesians, especially young Indonesians taking their university breaks to do WFH work
WFH.
in Australia.
Wait, we have to
WHV,
my
working
bad.
holiday
Yeah,
visa,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, my bad.
WHV,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Okay, I want to look it up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I heard stories, but not from people I know, because yeah, and then with WHV, the cost to like apply, and then to
Fly there.
fight, yeah, and then to find a job, to go to the like regional areas of Australia,
Yes.
and then do the work, and then perhaps there you're
And
being
also facing a risk of like,
being exploited.
being
Exploitation.
because they know that you're on a
Yeah, yeah. And then if you're got scammed or
Oh,
like
God
whatever,
forbid, yeah, you get scammed, yeah.
and then your living condition, because I think I heard from somewhere that with Buhafe and you're like living in the regional area, like tempat tinggal, tempat tidur kamu tuh kayak gak proper banget gitu. Kayak pokoknya yang murah aja. As long as you can like sleep.
Work.
Yeah.
As long as you can sleep.
Yeah. Cramped stuff, yeah.
Very bare minimums.
Yeah. But again, that's like these are people that sort of like chasing that romanticizing apa?
Romanticizing
Struggle. Like, oh yeah, I can endure all this to save up and go home and be rich some sort. But yeah, again, that's the I think, and the questions of like nationalism with like people yang kabur aja dulu. I think this is the question to the government, I think.
Yeah.
You know, it's more like a question to the government, like like you're elected officials, yeah? And then and is this how you show your nationalism?
Yeah, because like what would need to change for leaving to be no longer the best option?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like how to make
Like
people
what-
stay.
Yeah, how to
people
make
stay,
make people
really,
stay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like with educations, and then
Job market.
terus apalagi transportations, let's say, to make people ini ya gampang kemana-mana cari kerja or whatever, and then the sistem pengupahan juga,
That as well.
ya kan?
A lot of our systems need
Yeah.
I think a lot of our systems right now are being experimental and getting like upgraded on. It's just
Like
not
a
there
little
yet.
extra pay and stuff.
Yeah, I heard that Indo doesn't like pay untuk uang lembur, I think.
Like overtime?
Yeah, overtime. Like in
Then you want
Different regulations.
different regulations, yeah. In different like sectors, yeah.
different companies. Yeah, it's not standardized. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Depends on where you work, really.
Yeah. And it's really the question to the government. Can you really like, instead of like saying, I think Pak Bahlil or I think Pak Bahlil like mempertanyakan nasionalisme. Like we're here, we're doing our best of like using whatever resources that we have here to do like this podcast or like Melbourne Bergerak or movement or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And you're there in Indo, the government. Itu you have a lot of resources to do to make a better policy, to make a real change, but you deliberately in some policies, you sort of like seem to deliberately avoid that, for your own gain, whether that whatever, like with MBG now, Tempo is now investigating, right, the bagi-bagi jabatan and all that stuff, which Indonesians we're aware of that.
Yeah, we know that.
Yeah, like
it's an open secret.
Yeah, open secret.
It's an
Like
open
with our
secret.
politicians,
We all
always
know.
bagi-bagi jabatan, right? And we're now asking you, where's your nationalism?
Yeah.
What have you done to our country that makes us to live better? That's, I think, should be directed to them, not us.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll like one of these like. Let me like re-edit. So, so like to close up our discussion, it's kind of like what role can our audience or maybe us, like even in this room, what we can play into this.
Mhm.
So like how do we as individuals or when we become part of community reclaim a sense of control when it feels like the system offers no solution? Yeah. This was difficult.
No, I
Which-
think
is it?
it's if this question is like asking if we as an individual, right? If we as an individual and a person can change much of their condition of society. But if you're like being organized, if you're being united, if you have a group, a support system, or I say with some questions are being thrown right now, like do we need like a better political party, let's say, if we have a really solid group of people that really wants to create change and really offering some sort of like concept on how we going to govern, or let's say create a better policy, I think it's more feasible to do. If you're like one person, I don't think one person can change Indonesia.
Yeah.
It should be like a collective of people
Yeah.
to do this. Because the problem is complex, it's big, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
It's
so complicated.
everywhere. And one person can't do that. There's no Superman in this problem
Yeah.
that can fix this. Yeah.
If there was one key message for those feeling like they have urge to leave, what would it be? Maybe it can be like from each of us.
Urge to leave Indonesia. Well, I guess really think it through. Like, why do you want to leave?
Yeah.
Personally, for me, it was more like wanting freedom to do things independently. Because at home, like I said, very caged. I don't have a lot of freedom to do things. I can't leave without asking permission. And I just wanted to feel independence. But I recognize that I don't need to leave Indonesia to do that. I can leave the city, for example, and that would be an easier stepping stone for a lot of Indonesians wanting to leave Indonesia. They could maybe start with maybe leaving the home first and seeing that if it suits them, if they could afford. Because if you can't afford to leave your house and leave your own town or city, for example, how could you leave to another country? You
Yeah.
know? Yeah. So, how would you say?
It's hard because like I mean I'm not here trying to say like you should leave. That's not
Yeah.
what I'm saying. I also agree with that you should really think it through because it's definitely gonna change the trajectory of your life. You're gonna meet new people. You're gonna see new opportunities. It's more about how you're gonna take advantage of it. Yeah, and make a better life for yourself, maybe your family.
Yeah, for me, I think, yeah, I agree with Arwen. You have to think it through to really count the cost.
Yeah,
It's not as
really count
easy,
the
right?
cost of.
Yeah, you have to like
Yeah,
really,
you have to really compare it. Like, are you ready?
yeah,
I mean, I don't think anyone's ready actually when they first
yeah.
move
I
out.
thought I'm ready.
Yeah,
I thought
as
I'm
well,
ready.
but like,
But well, if you're already here, it's very different from what you imagine like when you were in Indo. So first, yeah, I agree. You have to think it through, the cost and the
yeah,
the possibility, the probability of like what your life's going to be like, and then how's your family is going to be, because when you leave, you still have your families, right? If like let's say, I still have my mom and my two brothers in Indo, and so that's that's another things for me to think about, like with me being here, what's gonna happen to them with
yeah,
all
you're not there as
yeah
often.
yeah
Yeah.
yeah, and like with all with the conditions happening in Indo, what's how they're going to be impacted with all this, right? Because and and even though if like you really have the opportunity to go, let's say you got a scholarship or whatever, I personally I think even though like we have this idea of like being a global citizen, that we can, you know, our nationality, let's say, is humanity, but we cannot really, you know, separate our identity with Indonesia. I think wherever you are, you're still Indonesian.
Your passport is still green.
Your passport is still green, and you still need visa to go everywhere, right? And so, yeah, wherever you are, I think the most important thing is that you don't forget you're Indonesian, because sometimes we're like trying hard to assimilate, integrate with the culture, and then we sort of like, perhaps and then first you don't forget, and then if you could, in whatever capacity in your position, situation abroad, is that you still in a way thinking or like have like maintain your attachment to Indo. So if anything happens, like let's say the worst thing that happens, because Prabowo was only in office for like less than a year, and then we have all these problems, right? We can only imagine what's gonna happen in like 5 years from now, or like perhaps 10 years, because I heard that like either Gibran or whatever is going to run for presidency in 2029, and so we should brace ourselves, you know, as Indonesian. We should be aware. So wherever you are in the world, you should be aware of what happened in Indo, and then by the time some things going to happen, like the worst thing, you know what you're gonna do.
If it happens, you already know the pattern that led up to it. Before.
Yeah. And then you can like reach out to other Indonesians, like this is part of your identity, and you should be defending this. Yeah, I think that's a long answer.
Very long message.
Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. This podcast has been brought to you by PPIA MOnash. You could find WDYT on Spotify, YouTube. Just search up "What do you think?" PPIA MOnash, and you should be able to spot our channels. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at WDYT PPIA MOnash for podcast updates and behind the scenes content. If you want to suggest a topic or give feedback, or you're interested in becoming a guest speaker, so just send us a DM or find our email, link in the bio. And thank you again, and see y'all in the next episode. And any
Endings?
Yeah. Last words.
Last words. Wait, no.
Well, all right. Okay, so first of all, I would like to thank PPIA MOnash and What Do You Think podcast for inviting me. I'm so glad to have invited here and share my perspective on the Kaburaju dulu phenomenon. And also perhaps I want to also promosi dikit ya. Promosi dikit tentang gerakan kita di Melbourne, yaitu Melbourne Bergerak. Buat teman-teman yang tertarik, mungkin tinggal di Melbourne atau di Australia, atau mungkin any parts of the world that wants to follow our movement, you can check our movement di Instagram at Melbourne Bergerak. So we're often sharing our whatever activities there, and we'll let you know if like we have another protest or whatever coming this year. And so jangan lupa follow di Instagram.
Okay guys, thank you for listening and bye bye.
Bye.